So in the anti-white narrative, what's happening? In the anti-white narrative, the anti-white slur of racist and racism is always on the rise. In the anti-white narrative, anti-Semitism is always on the rise. So we need to not speak in terms, and that's what we talk about with the dialectics and lexicon of going free, not speak in the terms that the anti-white speak, so as to take them out of this narrative. In that narrative, an anti-white or a vague who is villainy signaling to everyone around them, those people are the good guys. They are the protagonists in that story. And so they really feel themselves to be riding in on a white horse and slaying this white dragon that has to be slain again and again and again. So what we do is we turn this dialectic around. We turn this argument around. We turn this conversation around by refusing to speak in their verbiage. And that includes refusing to allow them to say things like racist, stopping them in their tracks and saying, you're not going to use that anti-white slur around me. We can talk about the subject, but you're not going to use anti-white slurs. And to phrase things in such a way that the anti-white is forced to take the position of the bad guy. Now, they won't say outwardly, you'll know when it happens. You'll see it on their faces. When they realize that they have to convince you that you should be white guilted, that you should be victimized, you will see on them that realization that they are no longer emboldened by being able to be the hero in this story, but instead they are, in fact, the malefactor. They are the antagonist in a story that, folks, we are writing. We hold the pen in this story. The only way we are going to save ourselves is to write our own narrative where we are the heroes, we are the good guys, we are the ones who have the glorious past and a glorious destiny that we're going to recapture. If we stay on their pages in the anti-white narrative, there isn't a good conclusion for us. It is sanguinary because you cannot make amends for a grievance you never committed. And that's what happens. That's where this started for me, and I'll pass it right back, is when I was in junior high school. And I said to my friends, this realization, this epiphany hit me sitting in the lunchroom. I can remember the day as though it's right now. I said to my friends sitting at the table, I said, look, this is just a story. The white children that were at this junior high school, 11 to 13 years of age, two grade years, those children were the bad guys in that story. They were the inheritors of this awful evil from the past that they had to wrap, this shroud they had to wear as penance and making amends, ever kissing the feet of the non-whites around them. Today, we are the bad guys at this junior high school because we are the white students. In the future, the white kids who will be here then, they will be the bad guys at this school. There's no making amends for a grievance that you never committed. It's a position in a story that we are being subjected to, and then we allow them to force us into that role. So this is why I say, and as I say, I'll pass it back. This is why I say, never don the implements, the vocabulary, the emblems, etc., that they have given, the anti-whites have given to the antagonists in their story. So that this particular verbiage that they give you to use, it's like, as I phrased it, it's like you decide you want to support white well-being. And then what do most people do? They look around in the world and they say, well, what does an advocate for white well-being or white positivity look like? Well, in the anti-white narrative, they have these symbols. They talk with this vernacular. They support this kind of government, this kind of economy. It's like they go to anti-white theater and they go into the dressing room and they say, well, what kind of clothes do I have to wear if I'm going to oppose anti-whiteism? What kind of vocabulary do I have to use if I'm going to oppose anti-whiteism? You don't do that, ladies and gentlemen, because not because you're going to appease the anti-whites or somehow placate them. It's not about them. You'll never placate them. If you get in the way of anti-whiteism, they're going to steamroll you. They're going to attack you. This is all about our brothers and sisters out there, the vagues, who they're living their life by the anti-white narrative. So if you don the vocabulary, the clothing, the symbols of the antagonist in that story, they will see you as the bad guy, and all the attendant stories, the movies, the books they've read where these people are punishing the innocent non-white child and all of this, they will think that that is they will associate that with you. They will think that that's what you represent. We decide what it looks like to look like an advocate for white well-being. We decide what vocabulary we use. Never give in to the anti-whites. So when they come in, they want to use the vocabulary that's used for the villain. They want to use things like hater, bigot, chauvinist, racist, anti-Semite, these sorts of things. You immediately call that down as an anti-white slur. So no, do not use anti-white slurs with me. If we can have a discussion about this, and this is what's important, I guess also, we have to make a distinction. And that is that you don't want to waste your time with someone who is not potentially going to start going free, who's not potentially going to come over to the service of white well-being, to the white positive sphere. If you come up against a person who is vehemently anti-white, break off your conversation with them, say, thank you, have a nice day, thank you for letting me know how much you hate Western kind, how much harm you want to inflict, and move on to someone who can potentially hear what you have to say. So that means you have an audience that is a potential convert to their own salvation, their own redemption. We just had I had a woman reach out to me. She went to she's going free, learning the dialectics and vocabulary. She went to a family party. She had a conversation with I guess it was an uncle, and he tried to use some anti-white vocabulary with her, some of these anti-Semite or whatever it might be. She stopped him from saying this. No, those are anti-white slurs. I'd like to talk about this with you, but we're not going to use these anti-white slurs. You know, don't slander me with these anti-white slurs. Immediately refielding that conversation and then being able to talk about these subjects. So the issue is that the anti-white elites, they have sophisticated, brilliant people who, and make no mistake, when it comes to warfare, the most powerful element of warfare is not the bombs that drop, but it's the psychological warfare. It's these manipulative tools. So they want to engage you. They want to get you roped into these conversations about why don't you want to bring in the third world into your country? What are you, some sort of hater? You want to turn the conversation into, why do you want to destroy Western civilization? Why do you want white people to have a hard time of getting jobs, protecting their children? You want them backpedaling, defending themselves, because they're trying to say, oh, I'm not anti-white. Really, let me tell you all the reasons why. When you get them to that point, you are in a good place. If they don't want to go there, then you're like a salesperson. What is it? We said this before. What is the most important thing as a salesperson that you can potentially know about a prospect? And that is whether or not that prospect is a potential customer. If you know that prospect will never buy what you're selling, then that is the best information you can have, because you can move on. We have hundreds of millions of our brothers and sisters out there with absolutely normal sensibilities like ours that are willing to listen. And every day they are more willing to listen. So in short, to answer your question, it is about refielding and not going into their dialectics, not going into their conversations, because you cannot win there. Those dialectics are specifically crafted for you to lose. That's why the conservatives, the nationalists, etc., they never win these conversations. They go away. Sometimes they try to pat each other on the back, trying to say, oh, you did a great job. You actually showed them there. But they deep down, they feel like they lost, and they know it. And so many of the folks who have come to serve white well-being, they were there. And now they come back and they say, wow, I'm using these dialectics and this vocabulary, and I'm actually winning these conversations for the first time in my life. So that is what I would say. You strip them of the vocabulary, snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat, and you take it from them, and that's how you win the day.